Hello, I'm Rob, and welcome to the Third Factor Minis. So, my first video. I wasn't quite sure what to do at first, as like an introduction to who I am and the website, and for those of you who follow me on socials. And I thought, well, why not paint something from my past, like a do-over, and just see how far I've come. And I've got no shortage of models in my backlog. My grey piles of shame that we all have, and I've got stuff going way back to when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. So after some thinking, I decided, why not one of the poster boys of Warhammer 40k, a humble Space Marine. Now, the last time I painted a Space Marine would have been about 2005, 2006, around that era, and it was the Battle for Macragge box set that got me into 40k, that released in 2004. Before that point, I'd only been Warhammer Fantasy, D&D, and Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth, with those bi-weekly magazines that were coming out. I hadn't dabbled into the sci-fi side of things yet for Warhammer. But yeah, that box set got me in. And sadly, I didn't stay with the Space Marines. I ended up moving on to the Imperial Guard for most of my teenage years growing up, and to this day really. And also later on the Sisters of Battle, once they re-released the plastic kits. But yeah, they've been my two factions growing up. Now, going through my collection, sadly a lot of my Space Marines have just over the years been traded away, lost to time, just life gets in the way. And this is all that remains of my collection. From the Macragge box set itself, all that remains is just this section of Space Marines here. And from other collections, I've just got a couple scouts, a captain, and a single Terminator. And yeah, that's sadly all that remains. However, for my unpainted collection of Space Marines, yeah, I've got quite a few. When was it? Back in 2017, the No Fear box set had come out, which had the Death Guard and the Space Marines in there. And at the time, I was feeling a bit Space Marine curious again, and I picked that box set up, and I painted one Death Guard from that box, and a few Poxwalkers for a D&D game, but that was it. And then it got added to the pile of shame. So then, fast forward to Leviathan's release, 10th edition, which was 2023 now, around that era. And me and a friend, we talked each other up into getting the box and splitting it. And we ended up buying a box each. And it sat there unpainted. I got it, built the Tyranids in that box, but I didn't end up touching the Space Marines at all in there. So yeah, I've got a few knocking about for the Space Marines. I mean, we all do, right? That's a part of the hobby, I swear. Just collecting piles of shame, or piles of opportunity, as some people like to call it. But yeah, so like I said, the last time I painted a Space Marine was 2005, 2006. So it's been a long time, and I thought, why not? Just to see how far I've come. Just as a bit of a litmus test, really, and just have fun with it. Paint something I'm not collecting, not getting attached to, and just talk about myself. So let's begin, I suppose. Okay, so to begin, I primed the model with a Colourforge matte black, and then from the top down, like a zenithal sort of spray, I used Citadel's Macragge Blue just to get my underlayer started. And then using a damp makeup sponge, I used the Pro Acryl Blue and just started sponging on all over the raised areas of the model. Being careful to leave the shadows, but not too worried if I caught other areas of the model, because I'd neaten them up later on. It wasn't too much of an issue at this stage. Just making sure to just, like I said, get the raised areas, making sure the sponge was damp, and it was fine. If you don't have it damp, it's like dry brushing where the paint can come out chalky. That's the only issue with that. So just be careful if you're going to use a sponge. You can be quite quick with this as well and get through a batch of models. But yeah, for the next stage, I moved on to a lighter blue, which was the Pro Acryl Sky Blue. And I was being a bit more selective with my placement at this stage. Again, not worried if I got it on other areas for like the trim and stuff, because I'd neaten that up later on. But just being a bit more careful. Again, keeping the sponge damp throughout the entire process. And just getting enough coverage where I'll be happy with it for the later stage. I was very tempted to paint a Black Templar instead, but decided to keep in spirit of my childhood's paint scheme and go with a ultramarine still. Spirit of the video. I'm glad I did, because it turned out really well. And here's the finished look with the sponging. For the next step, it was blocking in the reds. So to start, on the bolt gun, I decided to use Pro Acryl's Burnt Red, smooth down, and being very, very careful just to pick out the gun casing. You don't have to be really neat in this stage, but I like to treat the model as if it's already been painted, and just being careful not to catch the other areas. Again, I was tempted to paint it like my childhood scheme, the black and silver casing for the gun, but I decided to use the red, like the Mars pattern bolter, because it makes the blue pop. It's a good complementary colour, and I'm glad I did. It comes out really well. But yeah, just being careful, just to go around the edges of the gun. This bit, I later paint the top of the gun anyway, so it's a bit redundant, but I was still being careful here. I also used the burnt red on the parchment, and also for the eyes. So here for the lenses, it's the same burnt red, being very careful to block in the lenses. Being careful not to catch that helmet, because I don't want to neaten up at the end. The less I can do, the better. I do apologise for any of the camera angles in this video. It was quite interesting trying to keep the model in focus to do these shots. You do have to get creative with how you hold the models, but I think I've done okay. But yeah, just being very, very careful to block that colour in. Nice and thin paint here so it flows off the brush nicely. Yeah, I'm very happy with how this turned out. Next, it's for the the leather. And I used the Pro Acryl Mahogany, which has got a nice red undertone to it. And yeah, just anything leather, the pouches, the sidearm holster on his back, anything leather, just blocked it in to start. Has a very nice red undertone. I mean, you could just paint them this one colour and call it done if you're going for just a real basic table ready standard, but we'll come back to that. Anyways, for the underlining, the undersuit, I used Pro Acryl's Coal Black, and any sort of undersuit trim, I just coated this, being careful not to catch the armour panels, being very, very careful here. But it goes on really, really nice, the Pro Acryl paints. long as you've got them thinned, it flows off your brush really well. So yeah, and any of the inner armor suit, so like under his legs, in his arms, in his inner elbows, on his bum, that sort of area. And yeah, also for the gun, I use the same coal black here on the scope of the bolter, just to block it in for later on to paint all the little silver greeblies. Now I'm starting to be more careful with the paint, because obviously I blocked in the red. I don't want to catch any of that. Same for the armour, the blue. Just taking my time here, being very, very neat, blocking it all in. Again, doing the back of the lenses as well for later on, for coming in with a nice green colour for the lens. Just getting it all ready. One coat was more than enough here. It applied beautifully. I also blocked in the barrels at that point as well. Here for the lens, I decided to use the Procol Bold Pyro Red for the highlight layer on here, and put that on. And then it was on to all the metallics, the trims and the Aquila and the stuff on the guns. And for this I used Citadel's Grey Knight Steel, which is a lovely blue silvery paint. And yeah, putting it all on all the trims, on on his backpack and the exhausts and the vents. I was tempted to go with a gold here or a white, but I thought I'd keep it the same as my past colour scheme, which I think is the 8th chapter, the Ultramarines. I don't know the name, but the 8th chapter. So at least it's somewhat lore accurate. But yeah, being very careful for the Aquila. Just taking my time. I mean, you can paint in sub-assemblies if you wanted to, but if you're careful enough, you can get in that gap. The paint just flows off quite nicely anyway, so just nice damp brush, you'll be fine. But yeah, this bit I did change because the past paint scheme is white for here, but I thought I'd keep it silver to match the rest of the trim. Yeah, just getting on the other side of the chest here, being very careful. I do shake quite a lot, so I have to like really steady myself, but I managed to do okay. You can already see the model coming to life here, and at this point I was starting to get excited that it was coming to life. I kept my previous model on the table as well, just so I could look at it and just visual reference and have a little smile to myself. But yeah, using this same Grey Knight Steel on all the gun greeblies, like the magazine casing and also the barrel. It goes on very, very nicely. Literally one coat and it's done. Especially when you've got that black, the black undertone as well, already painted. It goes on lovely. Yeah, put it on the barrel. It was at this point I realised the barrel hadn't been drilled. So don't panic, fellow barrel drillers. I do rectify that. Yeah, I was being very, very careful here not to catch that red. Just going around the details of the gun. I mean, after this stage of the gun, you could call this table ready if you was really trying to churn out some models. But I thought we would push it a little bit further. So, carrying on with all the little greeblies, just painting some details on the scope. Just using the same silver. Just being very careful not to catch that black. I said just use the edge of the brush, and it was applying beautifully. Absolutely beautiful. It was at this point I started feeling there was something wrong with the blue armour. And we do come back to fix that later on. But yeah, I started to assess the sort of look I was going for. I wanted a stylized look for the model. I didn't want it to be fully blocked in with the colour, but like a stylized shadow sort of look to it. Anyways, for the lens, I used the Pro Acryl Green, and just very carefully, just dot the lens of the bolter, both sides of it. It goes on so smooth, this paint. All the Pro Acryls do, to be fair. Just make sure it's nice and thin, nice damp brush. And again, it's a complementary colour to this blue and the red on the colour wheel, so it works really well here. And I thought, why not? While I've got the green on here, I'll do some more greeblies. So the two little buttons on the gun, I thought I'd put those green, because why not? I don't even know if there are buttons, but they look like it to me. I was like, yeah, little pop of colour, just to break the red up. And yeah, obviously you can see that undrilled barrel there, which does irk me a bit, but we do fix it. But yeah, over to the arm button. See, I lost my words. Sorry, I do have a bit of a stutter. But yeah, done the buttons on the arm. I wanted to have a red one as well, so I made sure not to block them all in. And then onto more highlights of the red. So I'll go back to the bold Pyro Red, and I'll start doing the highlights on the wax purity seal here, just getting the raised areas and the inner the dot. I'd used the burnt red previously for the base, and also working on the edge highlights of the bolt gun as well. Just going around the edges, any raised bits. Not all of it, not going really crazy, but just certain little sections of the gun, just to make it pop. Then you go on the back section there, just use the side of your brush just to catch it. And also very light dabs I've done on the casing screws as well, just to make it pop a little bit. And here I use the Pro Acryl Fluorescent Red to finish off the lenses before the eye glint. These fluorescents are very, very, very bright. They are, wow, they pop, but they just don't show up on the camera, unfortunately. They just don't show up. But these are very vibrant colours. When you put them over other colours, you can glaze them over, and they really do stand out. Right, for the parchment, I'd already blocked this in brown, the leather stuff, but I decided to use light umber to highlight my way up, just leaving some of the mahogany underneath, just to make it pop a bit, really, like shadows. Being very, very light with the coverage. And then with the same light umber, I decided to start putting little scratches down on the leather pouches. So very gently, just going around edges of the pouches, any areas that are getting natural wear and tear, so like on the flap, on the button, like the latch on the flap, the edges, that sort of thing. Just natural places where there'll be wear and tear. Real world examples are perfect for this. Like if you've got any, like a leather jacket or like anything leather, just look at it. I mean, yeah, you got Google and stuff, but use the real world around you for the examples for clothing. And yeah, just being very careful, just doing little micro scratches all over the surface, just lightly grazing the brush. Not to overdo it though, just a few. And yeah, doing some more on the crease of the flap as well. And just making sure they're all done. And I do the same as well for the gun pouch. I do the same light umber on along the edges, on where the fold, natural wear and tear would be, on the crease lines and stuff like that. And also at the bottom of the pouch where the gun would push into the holster and sort of like warp the leather. Again, use real world examples if you can, just like anything you can look at to visually get an idea of what you want to achieve. But it just adds a little bit of extra pop to the model. Yeah, just being very, very, very gentle. Trying to get my model in focus there. Again, I'm sorry for the camera angles. Very light scratches. Just not to overdo it. You can very easily get carried away with like scratches and stuff, like distressed looks on clothes. Right, it really depends on how distressed you want it to look, but you don't want to go overkill. Right, for the next stage, it was using Proacryl's fluorescent green this time for the lenses that I'd done, just to make them pop a little bit more. And yeah, it's just such a shame that they don't show up on the camera of how vibrant they are. And here we are, I'm fixing the armour, where I said something didn't sit right with me. And some of the sponge surfaces just weren't complete enough, they weren't popping. There's too much of the undertone blue in them. So what I decided to do is go back in with the sky blue and go over some of the areas, the bigger surface areas, with a nice smooth layer, just feathering it in, just to bring the sponge textures together. And fixing this leg, this was the bit that like irked me. So just filling out the leg a bit more, feathering that sky blue in. Again, I didn't want to paint the entire leg. I wanted this stylized look to it, like very harsh shadows, but where you could put it on a table and be happy with it as a table ready model. Now it was time to do more the purity seal. So now I use the Proacryl Dark Ivory, which is the Ninjon's signature series, which I love this paint so much, this Dark Ivory. It's like my go-to for parchments and like bones for skeletons and skulls and stuff like that. It's a lovely colour. That sort of warm cream colour to it. It's really nice. I highly recommend getting the set. But yeah, just putting smooth layers on. And for the text, I use the coal black, but I water it down so much, this paint. I thin it down and very, very carefully just do little lines down the parchment that just make it look like there's text at a scale. Very, very careful. I'm not too worried if some lines are faded more than others. It all sells the illusion. And also go back in with a red on that seal and put like little stamps. Now, using the same dark ivory, it was time to dot the eyes for the lens glint. Now, very carefully, very carefully, I'll glint this here, holding my breath. Very nervous to mess this up. I wasn't going to do this at first, but I thought, why not? But yeah, like I said earlier on, I shake quite a lot, so I have to like really brace myself. Now, for the finishing touches, I just used some Vallejo Diorama FX, and it's the Dark Earth mud, and I just apply that all over the base with a toothpick, just being careful not to catch the model itself. I mean, I would have liked to have done a proper base for this model, but I wanted to do like the speed is key and just see how quick I could do a model, as if I was painting up an army. And yeah, I chuck on some tactical tufts and a couple decals or decals, however you want to pronounce it, and that's it done. So there you have it, my first Space Marine in 20 years. I had a lot of fun with this project, and seeing how far I've come over these years since my childhood, you don't really notice your progress in anything in life, like from health, work related, hobbies, until you can get some like stock comparisons side by side. I mean, I know I've improved over the years, but just seeing it in person next to each other, it's a nice reminder. And that no matter what you do, you're always improving. And I think we're too harsh on ourselves. A lot of us say like, "Oh, I'm not improving. I'm not getting better. It's not working. Whatever it is." But you are. No matter what it is, stick with it, chip away at it, and you will improve. No matter what it is in life, you will improve. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video, my first ever video, and thank you for watching it all the way through. I know it's a bit of a slog, this one, but I wanted to put my heart and soul into it and show you the whole process. If you did enjoy this, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. It would help me massively, and you just watching helps me anyway. And if you want to see more, please consider heading to my website, thirdfactorminis.co.uk. I'll leave the links in the description below, or checking me out on my Instagram page for more work in progress and finished sexy gallery shots. But until next time, take care.